Imagine waking up in thick darkness. No glowing screens. No food on shelves. No running water. No soft blankets. It is just your bare skin, the cold earth, and about 12,000 hungry beasts hunting you down. This was everyday reality for 99% of human history. And here's the wild part. We did not just crawl through the mud. We did not just hide in caves and hope for the best. We conquered. We walked with bare hands into baking sand and bone-chilling ice. We solved life or death puzzles with ideas so crazy that modern experts just scratch their heads in pure shock. Today, we are digging into the most brutal, brilliant, and raw survival hacks our ancestors actually used to stay alive. A few of these tricks will make your brain hurt. Some will make your stomach turn. But every single one will force you to look at your family tree with deep respect. Before we dive in, remember this. Your ancestors had no white coats. They had no testing labs. Every single truth they found, they tested with their own blood. They ate it, drank it, or rubbed it on their skin, and waited to see if their hearts stopped beating. That was the original science. Test the wild. Stay breathing. Warn your tribe. Let us begin. Drinking yellow water. Yes. We are going right into it. People all over the planet drank their own warm liquid. Before you turn this off in pure disgust, hear the truth. They had a valid point. Fresh liquid leaving your body is clean. It is 95% pure water, trapped in a blazing desert with dry, cracked lips. Drinking it once or twice gives you extra hours to live. It buys time. Roman soldiers poured it straight over open cuts, washing away blood and dirt. Old Egyptian scrolls talk about using it to spot sickness and heal the body. You find this exact same habit in old Indian texts deep in Chinese history, and across wild lands in Africa and the Americas. Do not make it a daily habit. Modern survival guides warn against drinking it for days. Every time it cycles through you, it gathers more white rock and bad waste. You dry out your own body faster. Your ancestors missed that detail, but their first gut reaction made sense. Romans even swished it around their mouths to make their teeth shine. Sailors from Portugal scrubbed their hands with it to fight off sickness on long ocean trips. It cleans things. Roman citizens actually went crazy for it. They placed huge clay pots on street corners just to gather it. Buyers paid good money for the warm liquid. An emperor even slapped a tax on it. His son felt deeply ashamed. The emperor simply pressed a gold coin to his face. He said, "Money carries no smell. You just learned a fact. Let us keep moving." Old healers found a fix that makes the skin crawl. Put yourself on a bloody ancient battlefield. You took a heavy hit. A deep cut tears your leg open. The smell of rotting fills the air. You see the meat turning black? You wait for death or the saw? Then a stranger walks over. He smiles. He opens a jar. Inside, hundreds of tiny, hungry mouths wiggle in the dirt. He pours them straight into your bleeding hole. This isn't torture. It's salvation. Healers in wild Australia and deep Mayan jungles did this exact routine. They watched nature work. Open cuts with bugs inside healed better than clean cuts. Some brave souls stopped crushing the bugs and started farming them. The hidden logic is a brutal masterpiece. These specific green flies do not eat living flesh. They spit out a harsh liquid. That liquid melts the dead meat. Then they eat it. They hunt down the invisible bugs, killing you. They are living blades. They cut away the rot. They work all day and night. You feel no pain. You pay no gold. Army doctors in America saw this trick during chaotic wars. Men lying in the mud with bug-filled legs walked home. Men with clean bandages died. The doctors started dropping the bugs in on purpose. It worked. Look at your shining high-tech hospitals today across America and Europe. They still buy jars of these tiny, hungry mouths. When modern pills fail to kill modern superbugs, the doctors call in the flies. The bugs eat the danger alive. The ancient hands mixing dirt and crawling things knew nothing about microscopic cells. They just watched closely. They did nasty things to keep breathing. They earned deep respect. Let us look at the high mountain tribes of the Inca. A man is lying on the hard ground. A healer is cutting a hole straight into his head. Yet, the patient lies perfectly still. He does not scream. He does not thrash his arms in agony. How is this possible without modern drugs? Before the sharp rock ever touched his skin, the healers dragged him into the skin-cutting wind. They plunged him into freezing mountain water. They packed his bleeding head deep in bone-chilling snow. This was a calculated freeze. The brutal cold deadens the nerves. It slows the rushing blood to a crawl. It stops the body from tearing itself apart from shock. Today, doctors in bright white rooms use expensive machines to freeze your body before cutting into your heart or your brain. They know cold stops tissue from dying. The Inca knew nothing about microscopic tissue. They only cared about the beating heart. But the truly crazy part is the actual operation. They ground wide holes into living heads, stone tapping on bone, hour after hour. Scraping away the skull, modern researchers found hundreds of these open skulls hidden in the dirt. The hard truth? 90% of these patients healed and lived long lives. 90%. With sharp rocks and freezing mountain wind. Crossed the ocean to Europe in the 1600s. Proud doctors bragged about their bright iron blades and thick medical books. If they cut your head open, you had a 10% chance to live. The mountain healers were 9 times better than the fancy kings of Europe. The Inca scrubbed their hands. They kept the dirt out. If you line up their oldest skulls next to the newest ones, the healing gets better. They learned from every drop of blood. They did science in the ice. Here's a puzzle that confused the smartest modern minds for years. The old habit of eating thick mud. Greek healers wrote about it. Romans chewed it. You find it deep in Africa. Mothers carrying a child actively hunted for specific dirt to chew. For years, men in lab coats called this a crazy habit. They thought it was a broken brain signaling a starving body. They laughed at the wild people. Then, they put the dirt under a lens. And they had to say sorry. The mud acts like a giant poison magnet. When swallowed, it grabs onto gut-burning poison and locks it down. It stops the bad elements from rushing into the warm blood. It coats a raw, burning stomach in a cool layer. It is packed with heavy iron and hard rock minerals. A growing baby violently demands exactly these raw elements. The hungry mother was not crazy. Her body was hunting for medicine. Wild food was dangerous. A heavy amount of wild roots and plants pack a bitter defense. They fight back. Swallowing thick mud right before dinner was a shield. Native tribes in the West mashed dirt directly into sour nuts to wash out the danger. High mountain tribes ate thick mud alongside bitter potatoes. Eat the potato raw, and you die screaming from gut-burning poison. Mix the potato with the mud, and you feed a village. The mud neutralized the threat. Whole tribes survived the winter just by knowing which dirt to eat. They had no fancy chemistry books. They just watched who died and who lived. They passed the survival rules down to their children. That is not wild magic. That is raw science painted in blood and dirt. Step onto a high mountain. Feel the thin air. Your splitting head feels trapped in an iron grip. Your gasping lungs fight for every breath. Walking feels like pushing through thick mud. Your stomach churns. Stay too long, and your brain swells until you die. Yet ancient tribes built massive stone cities in the clouds. They carved giant farms into the sky. How? They chewed a bitter green leaf. This single leaf built a whole mountain empire. Let us clear the air right now. Chewing this raw green plant is completely different from snorting white powder. You do not get a wild rush. You get a slow, steady pulse of life. For thousands of years, this bitter green leaf was pure medicine. It acts like a tiny chewing machine that pumps raw oxygen straight into the blood. It kills the crushing exhaustion without causing a sudden crash. Up in the clouds, your body burns huge amounts of energy, but the thin air kills your hunger. The leaf forces your body to keep going. Men digging deep inside dark silver mines chewed it nonstop. They survived shifts that would kill a normal man. Then, foreign soldiers arrived in shiny armor. The Spanish hated the local habits. They banned the green leaf. The results hit them instantly. Their slave miners collapsed. The silver stopped flowing. The greedy invaders panicked. Within a few years, the very men who banned the plant were forcing it back into the mouths of their dying slaves. They did not care about the culture. They just wanted the silver. Today, rich climbers paying top dollar still drink this exact leaf in hot water before scaling the peaks. The mountain tribes figured it out simply by staring at a wild bush and trusting their teeth. Let us go deeper than one mountain leaf. Look at the whole wild world. For hundreds of years, men in clean suits laughed at old plant remedies. They called it magic dirt and wishful thinking. Then, they finally pulled apart the bitter bark and crushed roots in their clean labs. They stopped laughing. Old tribes in Egypt, Greece, and wild forests across the Americas boiled bitter bark to wash away a hot fever. They never talked to each other. They lived oceans apart. They all found the exact same tree by testing it on their own burning bodies. Modern science took that bitter bark, tweaked it slightly so it doesn't burn a hole in your stomach, and put it in a tiny white pill. Every time your head hurts and you swallow an aspirin, you are chewing on an ancient Egyptian branch. Old women in cold Welsh villages crushed a purple flower to fix a broken, swelling heart. Modern doctors still pull the exact same chemical from that flower to keep failing hearts pumping today. Deep in the wet woods, native tribes boiled tree bark. Today, hospitals run the juice of that exact tree through plastic tubes into sick patients to fight cancer. The chemical factories simply bottle the wild blood of the forest. High mountain tribes boiled sour water from bark to fight swamp fever. You mix that exact same sour water with your clear liquor at a weekend party. It is called tonic water. The pattern never stops. The giant drug companies finally admit the truth. A quarter of all the shiny pills on the pharmacy shelf are directly stolen from wild roots and leaves. Your modern medicine cabinet is just an ancient forest packed into plastic bottles. The old healers were not fools. The medicine was always real. Let us look at a massive survival trick that shaped a whole giant land. For at least 60,000 years, ancient tribes roaming the deep desert used fire. Not a wild, killing flame. They used a tame fire. They dropped the spark with exact timing, burning patches of dry grass in a moving puzzle across the land. From the outside, throwing fire at dry wood looks like madness, but it was a master plan. The fast, low flame chewed up the dead sticks lying on the ground. It ate the fuel. It stopped a giant wall of fire from building up. When the smoke cleared, the ashes fed the dirt. Sweet green grass shot up from the black ground. It pulled in wild meat to hunt. These roaming tribes ran a whole mass of land, mass like a backyard garden. Then, men in tall ships arrived. They looked at the endless green parks and thought nobody touched it. They were blind. They were staring at a 60,000-year-old garden kept perfectly clean by a tame fire. The new arrivals stole the land. They banned the flame. They forced the tribes out. The dead wood piled up. Year after year, the fuel grew thicker. The forest became a giant bomb waiting for a spark. Then the sky turned orange. A giant wall of fire swallowed the land. It ate 18 million chunks of earth. It burned 3 billion animals to black bone. Cities choked on dark smoke for months. Hotter weather made the bomb bigger, but stopping the tame fire lit the fuse. Now, the modern fire experts are begging the old tribes for help. They are paying the original owners to bring the tame fire back to clear out the rotting fuel. The modern world is frantically digging up the ancient secret from the ashes. It cost a continent in flames to finally listen. Let us travel out into the open water. A small group of men push off in a wooden boat. They enter the biggest, emptiest stretch of black water on the planet. They have no glowing screens. They have no metal pointers. They have a blind sky and deep salt water. Yet, they did not just float around waiting to die. They drove their rocking wooden belly across the whole wild ocean, hitting tiny dots of land over and over again. They packed whole families on these small boats to claim empty islands. They used the bright dots in the black sky. Memorizing the slow spin of the stars is insane enough. But the truly mind-bending part is reading the water. A man sitting on the wood learned to feel the deep, rolling punch of the waves. A storm raging thousands of miles away pushes a silent wave under the boat. When that deep wave hits a hidden island, it bends. It bounces back. A trained man could close his eyes, feel the cold water slapping his face, and tell exactly where the hidden rock was just by the tilt of the wood. Some men lay flat on their stomachs on the wet floorboards, turning their own skin into a radar to catch the softest pulse. They were blind men in the ocean, reading the water with their bones. They watched a bird fly out at dawn and rush back at dusk. That bird points directly to dry land. They studied the shape of a single white cloud stuck in a clear sky. A stuck cloud means land below. They built a heavy map of the whole ocean entirely inside their heads. When outsiders forced them to change, this bone-deep knowledge almost vanished. Now, they are fighting to bring the old ways back. They did not just scrape by on the water. They conquered the dark sea using pure human focus. Let us look at how rotting food saved the human race. It probably started as a simple mistake. A smashed fruit, wet grain, or animal milk left sitting in the baking heat. Then someone watched it bubble, copied the process, and built the ultimate survival weapon. In a brutal world with no iceboxes, fresh food turned black and rotten in days. Letting food turn sour naturally stretched its life from days to years. It meant chewing on sour meat through a starving winter instead of freezing to death with an empty belly. But forget the romantic story of ancient kings drinking wine. For most of human history, drinking clear water was a literal death trap. Muddy water near any human camp was packed with a deadly bug weapon. It carried hidden sickness that wiped out millions of people every single year. In this harsh reality, sour bubbling water was not a party drink. It was your only safe hydration. Boiling the raw grain killed the sickness. The sour bubbling water choked out anything left alive. The men hauling heavy rocks to build the giant pyramids drank sour grain water every single day. Not as a reward, it was a raw survival tool that kept them standing in the baking sand. People in cold European towns fed weak beer to their tiny children simply because the local well was an open grave. The bubbling water does not just save food, it physically transforms it. Billions of tiny good bugs chew up the heavy poison hidden in raw roots. They spit out rich vitamins. They unlock trapped minerals. Sour meat and bubbling cabbage give your body more raw fuel than the fresh plants ever could. Your ancestors did not brew beer to laugh and relax. They brewed it to engineer a living food machine. Every sour bite on your table today, the sharp cheese, the sour bread, the bubbling cabbage. It is a living library of human survival. Every tribe on Earth found this bubbling trick because they had to not die. Today, modern doctors confirm that swallowing these living bugs builds a massive shield deep inside your gut. The ancient tribes did not know the microscopic rules. They just knew they woke up the next morning. They tested the wild. They survived. They conquered, and that is why you're sitting here